Hello and welcome to the Waste of Web Space podcast, episode 57.
Starring
Jimbo
and Fisher.
And it's great to be back on our second Skype-based podcast. So we'd already started videoing before, hadn't we? But obviously we had a Skype video on the last one, so we were kind of into the videoing thing already, weren't we? But I think it sounded pretty good. It worked pretty well. Were you quite happy with it, Fisher?
I was quite pleased with it. Sound quality was quite good. A lot of TV programmes have to do this now.
Yeah.
So I watched Have I Got News For You on Friday night, and they seem to be doing the same thing. But I did actually think our sound quality was better than theirs.
Let's hope we can keep it up. And just to test our sound quality out, shall we introduce the title of our podcast today, episode 57, is entitled, Don't Podcast So, Don't Podcast So, Don't Podcast So Close to Me. And that is in reference to a Police song, Don't Stand So Close to Me. Which obviously, again, continuing with the old sort of social distancing theme that we've had for the last couple of weeks. The Police are probably, like, as well as them being a band, aren't they the people that are also policing the social distancing and making sure people stay indoors, or is that the actual police?
The actual police are doing the policing.
I was going to say because...
Not the police doing the policing.
Not Sting and the Police. But they'd be quite good at it because, like, they are, they also sing a song, Message in a Bottle, so they'd be quite good at sort of, communicating through the sort of lockdown and so on. Yeah.
Well, it depends how quickly you can transport a bottle from one place to the other, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
the method of transportation.
And they could sort of say, put on your red light if you need extra food and supplies or something. Put on a red light and all that. But that's also a different thing as well. And again, it's something something else you shouldn't be doing during the coronavirus outbreak.
Yeah, I think having a red light on generally sends out a very different signal to say I'm hungry. Obviously, there is sort of issues
hungry
around.
For something else.
I mean, perhaps that is where we're throwing so much technology into self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Maybe for communications, it's better self-sending messages in bottles.
Possibly, yeah.
What do you think?
Why not?
Put the bottle sort of inside a remote-controlled car.
Yeah.
Send it across to your friends. That'd work, wouldn't it?
It would do, yeah. And we also have done a little bit of work on our since we've had more time, haven't we, basically. We've done a bit more work on our kind of audio little bits that we use in our shows and so on. Done a bit of extra stuff as well for our Facebook page and Twitter account and so on. So you might have seen that that I actually recorded the sort of parody version of our last episode of our podcast, which was entitled Love Will Tear Us 2 Meters Apart. So I've recorded a version of that you can watch on YouTube and on our Twitter and Facebook accounts. We may even play out the show with it later on today as well. We'll see how much time we've got left.
Yeah, I think probably the critical thing there is when you said we have been doing that, what you mean is you have been doing that, because I haven't got a clue how to do any of that sort of stuff.
Well, you've done well at your end getting set up, haven't you, and getting plugged in and everything. Got your microphone stand set up there.
I can plug things in. Isn't he clever? Isn't he a technical genius? His ability to plug some headphones into a headphone socket, unrivaled. Well done.
Don't you work in IT?
Well, yes, but not in audio-visual stuff.
All right, I'll let you off. Okay. So we'd also thought a bit differently about how can we do things maybe a little bit differently, particularly during this time, make things a bit more visual as well, seeing as we're on Skype and we're on video now. And we also thought we've got a bit of a new feature, haven't we, Fisher? So should we get straight on with it? Do you want to get straight on with it?
Yeah, sure. We have a drink first?
Oh, yeah, why not? While we're getting that then.
Okay, so obviously at this time... So at this,
did you want to do the joke?
I think we were going to do a joke where we're going to pass the beer across to each other. But I think you might have just ruined that.
We can still do it. Do it anyway.
There's a massive time delay on this video, so the drinks seem to have already got across to Jimbo by the looks of it. I mean, obviously, in this time you've got to be careful. I've got another visual joke. You've got to be careful you don't develop a problem with alcohol. So I've just been drinking a few glasses of brandy. So for anyone listening to the audio version of that, I just pulled out a massive glass that's filled with, well, it's not actually filled with brandy. It's filled with something else. I'm just going to pour a drink of Amstel Lager.
Okay.
That's just because we're standing shoulder to shoulder with other nations at the moment who are also suffering from the coronavirus outbreak.
What, so everybody's having to drink crap lager?
Hey, it's not crap.
I'm
it's all right,
joking.
Sam.
I'm joking. No, well, I mean, in all fairness, though, we haven't really had chance to get out there, have we, and buy any sort of beer, have we? Like local sort of craft beer and ales and stuff like that, like we normally would. So we're stuck with whatever we've got. However, there are lots of local beer services around Sheffield and Chapeltown area, including the ones from the Moore Market, who I always like to give a mention to, Beer Central, who are doing a delivery service. So if anyone's after any specialist craft beers, lagers, ales, ciders even, then you can get in touch with them, Beer Central, and they're on Facebook. And they also do they're involved in a great podcast as well called the Hopcast, which is all about beers and so on.
Are they paying to sponsor us?
No, they're not. They should be.
Why are you advertising them so profusely, though?
Well, are we gonna do the trick or what?
I'll pass the beer across to you, Jimbo. I'll pass the lager. Here you go. There you go.
Where is it? Oh, hold on. This one. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Did that kind of work, or did I kind of give it away earlier?
I don't know. It's definitely not my beer, because my beer's just here on my other side.
Anyway, speaking of sponsors...
Thank you very much.
Speaking of sponsors... Sponsor the Waste of Web Space podcast today and see your business boom. Boom, boom, boom. We have a guaranteed listenership of at least 5,000... Sorry, just 5. Jimbo, Fisher, Fisher's wife, Fisher's cat, and sometimes Fisher's dad. Especially since retiring from working for Schweppes. We've got a lot more time on his hands now. For a very low price per episode, we can give you absolutely nothing in return. Yes, nothing. But we will look favourably on your products and services. We have a range of advertising packages available to suit every business need and budget. From sticking your poster in our own toilet, right up to occasionally mentioning your services in our podcast. Or for the Platinum package, we'll make you an absolutely banging advert just like this one. Get in touch today. Or tomorrow, or the day after that, or whenever really. Okay, so we've got our drinks, we're settled in, we're ready to crack on with the rest of the podcast. We've already ruined a lot of the jokes as well, but never mind. So, Fisher, I sort of said, shall we have a new little feature and try and make it a bit more visual? So I said to you, we've all got different random items, don't we, that we've got around our houses and stuff that we've sort of picked up and sort of gathered together. We might have hoarded over the years, and some quite random and strange things at times as well, or unexplainable things. So I thought, let's do a bit of a would I lie to you type thing, where we both bring an item to the podcast, a bit like a show and tell. Should we call it show and tell?
Yeah, go on then.
Let's call it show and tell. We bring a random item each to the podcast each week, and then we've got to describe 2 different versions of events as to how we got these items and where they came from in order to convince the other to go with the one that's actually a lie. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
So I want...
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Jimbo. This is the technical difficulties we're facing. Go on, Jimbo.
So I want to be able to convince you not to get the correct reason that I've got a certain item. Is that correct? Is that how we're going to do it?
If that's how I want to do it, that's how I want to do it. I would warn you that this first week, that's not quite how I've done it.
No, right, okay.
I'm going to tell a story about an event that a certain item was involved in, but
okay,
we'll work it out as we go along.
Well, let's just see what happens. So, who wants to go first? Shall I go first or you go first?
I'll let you go first, Jimbo.
Okay. So the item that I have brought with me, a couple of different things actually, but they're both linked together, is this. Okay. So I'll hold it up for the camera. I have got an Eddie Stobart pocket watch. Okay. Eddie Stobart pocket watch, okay? And not only do I have an Eddie Stobart pocket watch, I'm also the very lucky holder of Eddie Stobart cufflinks. Okay? It's got the Eddie Stobart truck on it. Do you like Eddie Stobart? Yeah.
I quite like Eddie Stobart. It's the pocket watch then, so is that how lorry drivers know that they've got to take their mandatory breaks to get given a pocket watch? I thought there was a tachograph in there nowadays, so it didn't. They weren't allowed to go over the limits.
Well, these are certified, okay, so they're very special, okay. So I'm going to give you 2 different reasons now as to how I've got these, and you've got to kind of break it down a little bit and see if you can find out the reason why I do have them over the other, if you know what I mean, okay. So you might have to dig into my answer a little bit. I'll give you a brief explanation for both, okay. Explanation number 1, okay, is that my grandma, who lives in Grenoside, I got these as a Christmas present from her because she thinks that I really, really like Eddie Stobart. And the truth is, I do like Eddie Stobart. I I like to play a game on the motorway, and it was went from when I worked at Barnsley College with a chap called Gary. Big shout out to Gary, who when we used to go on long journeys doing UCAS events and various things around the country, we'd look out for Eddie Stobart trucks, and we'd both try and guess it. Each Eddie Stobart truck, I don't know if anyone knows, has got 2 names on it, 2 girls' names on it normally, sometimes 1, usually 2. So what we did is a game where we both had to say 2 girls' names, and we had to see if we were lucky enough for one of us to get any of the names right that were on the lorry as we drove past it. So I think I once told my grandma this story, and she decided that for Christmas she would get me an Eddie Stobart pocket watch. She sent off for it because it was in the newspaper, and Eddie Stobart cufflinks. So that's why I have these items, and I'm very, very keen on them. I really like them. And that's reason number 1. Yeah.
So are the 2 names that are on an Eddie Stobart lorry not Eddie and Stobart?
No, they've all got different names. So it could be like Jean Patricia, or it could be Lucy Olivia. It could be anything like that. Usually girls' names, and usually 2. Sometimes 1, depends, but usually 2. Okay. Are you ready for the second reason? And you've got to decide which reason's real. Okay. The second reason is that before, like I said before, I like playing this game along with a friend of mine from Barnsley College. The second reason is that I was driving on the motorway, not when Gary was with me at the time, but just on my own, going to another work event, and I drove past a lorry that had the name Ada Grace on the side of the lorry. Now, as you will know, that is the name of my daughter, okay? But this is before my daughter was born. So I saw the name, and I'd already considered Grace as part of the name, along with the mother of Ada, of course. We'd already considered Grace as a potential name, but when I saw the word Ada on it, spelt slightly differently, albeit, I suggested that as a name, and that then became the name of my daughter, Ada Grace Wilmshurst. There you go. And because of that, and that moment that I had where I realised that was what I wanted to call my daughter, I decided that just before she was born, when I'd seen that you could send off and get these certified bits of merchandise from Eddie Stobart, that I'd send off for the Ada Grace pocket watch and cufflinks. And it does actually say Ada Grace. It's hard to see, but it is the Ada Grace one that's on the front of this particular lorry. Okay? So, which of my 2 reasons is real? You can quiz away, you can try and find out if I'm lying about one of them and which one it is.
Okay. Is your daughter actually called Ada, or has this been a very long-running thing where you've just referred to her as that over the last sort of 2? Well, she'll be 3 in sort of start of June. First June is her birthday. So you've obviously for well over 2.5 years you've just been calling her Ada, even that's not actually her name, just so you can get to this point.
You know full well that's a name. So
okay. Gary, without wanting to make sort of comments about elderly relatives and the presents you sometimes get from them at sort of Christmas and birthdays, which are always appreciated. It's always the thought that counts.
Yeah.
If you were just going on the quality of the present, sometimes you'll maybe think it was slightly questionable. But it is the thought that counts. There's always a lot of thought in there in terms of presents from grandparents. So thank you very much to all our grandparents for the sometimes appalling presents that you get us.
Well, it's a nice way to think of them. Now we can't see them. I've got this potentially, if I'm telling the truth, I've got this Eddie Stobart pocket watch and cufflinks to remind me of my grandma.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing is, I'm in a bit of a jeopardy situation, really, aren't I? Because if I say that the idea that you named your daughter after seeing 2 words on an Eddie Stobart lorry, and I say that's a ridiculous and stupid thing to do, and it turns out it's true, then obviously that's quite sort of offensive and disappointing. So I don't want to say that.
But you already knew I was already considering Grace, so it wasn't a complete stab in the dark, but it was just something that I saw it and I thought that's potentially the name I want to go with. So
yeah, and then Lightning Moment brought to you by Eddie Stobart.
Yeah.
So I think that could be true. That I think that might have been the confirmation moment. Ada Grace seen it on an Eddie Stobart lorry.
So you're going with that one?
Going with that one.
So I tricked you. This was actually a gift from my grandma. And although I did say that, and it's complete truth that I do like playing the Eddie Stobart game, that's true. But to be completely honest, I was quite confused as to why this was a gift that was given to me. This Eddie Stobart pocket watch, and it is certified. So it was. She sent off from the newspaper, and I think she got various other family members different things from newspapers as well that you could send off for, or she might have seen it on the TV. Even I can't remember what it were. But yeah, and it's not Ada Grace. It's actually Ivy Marion. Is the version of the cufflinks and the pocket watch that I've got. So
great. Not only do you get a present that you may not want, you get it with two people's names that are absolutely meaningless to you.
Exactly.
Unless, obviously, your grandma is called Ivy Marion or anything like that.
But... No relation whatsoever. But that said, I do like playing the Eddie Stobart game when I am in the car, and I always do that. So I always now look out for Ivy Marion, hoping that one day I will see the Ivy Marion that is on my pocket watch. And jokingly, I did want to take that to a wedding, and I had that in my pocket at a wedding. So there you
go. If you were to see the Ivy Marion Eddie Stobart lorry, would you then have to drive home to go and get your pocket watch and cufflinks, then try and get back onto St. Brad and go and catch the lorry up?
Possibly. There's an app, you can mark on an app, on an Eddie Stobart app, where you have seen certain trucks with certain names on and so on, so that you can sort of track them around the country and where they are and so on. For anyone who's really into Eddie Stobart. If I tag this with Eddie Stobart, we might have loads of views from loads of Eddie Stobart fans. Big shout out to you. If they do that.
The truckers can listen to the podcast while they're on the road, surely.
Yeah.
So, thank you what a great idea.
Exactly. I know what I'm doing. Always thinking.
Is it time for me to discuss my possession?
Yes.
Well, I'm wearing it.
Okay.
It's a red hooded top, a few drawstrings on the hood. It's got, I'm not sure if you can see on the hood, but it's had like sort of POW and WOW and various other things.
Like on Batman.
A bit like Batman, yeah. So like some kind of very poor quality superhero, which is very much how I market myself anyway. So at what significant event did I wear this? Well, there's two options, and I think you're aware that one event definitely occurred, but you maybe not haven't heard of the other one, which doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. Who knows? So did I wear this in 2010 when I met and shook hands with the then Prime Minister Gordon Brown? Or was I wearing this in 2011 when I was walking through the Manchester Arndale Centre on a Sunday evening with my hood up like this? So for anyone listening to the podcast, I've just put my hood up. Actually, I haven't. I've got it stuck on my headphones. So I got my hood up whilst walking through Manchester's Arndale Centre on a Sunday evening, and I was stopped by two policemen who were looking for someone who was matching my description. After about 5 minutes of explaining who I was and giving identification, I was then allowed to go on the long road to freedom.
Okay.
So which do you think happened whilst wearing this top?
Right. So, well, I know that you did meet Gordon Brown. As you said, you will know that I know you met Gordon Brown, because I think you once tweeted about it, and I think you've talked about it possibly on the podcast before as well. And I seem to think that on the occasion you was wearing something different. And I was
certainly wearing something, yeah.
I seem to think it might have been a silly hat or something, though, instead, for some reason, rather than it being a hoodie. And your hoodie's not particularly silly. It's was that the same hat you was wearing? No, okay. But
it happens to be a prop that's close to me.
Okay. So I seem to think there was something you was wearing at the time that you met Gordon Brown. I don't think it was any sort of statement towards him or anything. I think you was wearing a hat of something for some reason. So I sort of think that's true. Well, can I ask you a question though? Where did the hoodie come from? You've not given me any reasons of where the hoodie's come from. Where did you get it from? Was it a gift or?
I think I bought it myself, and I think I actually bought it from Top Man. This is in the days before Philip Green was an acceptable person to, an unacceptable person to buy from.
Is he going to feature later on in your quiz?
He isn't. He's not really said much about coronavirus. So I've got a baddies of coronavirus quiz coming up, and I don't think Philip Green actually features on it.
Fair enough. So you just bought it yourself then, but you was wearing it when something happened. So you were meeting Gordon Brown, yeah, and I can see that they might have been looking for someone wearing a hoodie, but again, red hoodies quite not. There are red hoodies. Obviously, clearly people wear red hoodies, but on that same day, looking for someone who matched your description also in a red hoodie, that would have been quite a rare thing to have happened, wouldn't it? As in, like, quite unfortunate. What did they say when they stopped you, the police? What did you have to explain? How did that work? Did you have to go in for questioning, or?
He said, "We're looking for someone who matches the description of Little Red Riding Hood. We think it might be you."
Can I just check? Can I just check? Was it the police or was it Sting and the police? I know we've already tried to make these things clear earlier on, but
they were, or indeed claimed to be, law enforcement officers.
Oh, so they didn't stop you and go, "You don't have to wear your red hoodie." They didn't say anything like that, no?
No, they definitely didn't say that.
So what did you do? Did you explain what it wasn't you and they just moved on? And
yeah, I used to live in Manchester and used to get the train home the train back from Sheffield to Manchester. I used to come home to Sheffield at the weekends. I used to go back to Manchester on a Sunday night where I did a hilarious Twitter feature called Tweets from a Train every Sunday night from about 7:45 until about 9 o'clock in the evening. Although I lost the signal in Totley Tunnel, but never mind. So I used to do that whilst I was on the train. And then I used to have sort of about a 20-minute walk back from the train station to the flat where I lived. And sometimes because it was cold or because it was raining, which is why I got my hood up, I would cut through the Arndale Centre in Manchester, which was the shops were closed, but because you got a food court, you could kind of get in and walk through, and it was nice and dry. So I was going through there, and the police stopped me, said they were looking for someone who looked like me. I was carrying, because I'd been out for the weekend, I was carrying quite a large bag, which obviously perhaps looked a little bit suspicious as well.
Right,
and they started asking me questions as to
where
I'd been, what I was doing.
I think based on my knowledge of you already meeting Gordon Brown and you was wearing something like a hat or something, I'm going to go with the one about the garden centre, and I think you were stopped by the police.
Sorry, garden centre?
You said you were going through a garden centre, didn't you?
I said Arndale Centre in Manchester.
Is that a shopping centre?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, yeah, and shopping centres are obviously places where people are likely to be wanted and thieving things and so on. Garden centres likewise, if you really want lots of plants. I don't know, but I'm going to go with that one anyway. Okay.
And you would be wrong.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So let's clarify then.
Clarify, I've never been stopped in the Arndale Centre by police or spoken to.
But you was wearing the hoodie when you met Gordon Brown?
I was wearing this hoodie when I met Gordon Brown.
Was you wearing a hat of any kind?
No, I don't think so. I was wearing, I was wearing this hooded top.
There is a picture of you meeting Gordon Brown somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, I appeared on Sky News.
Oh, right, okay.
On that particular evening. Just about... the handshake didn't appear on Sky News.
Yeah.
I was just about to handshake and then it cut out.
And on the same news show, they were also looking for someone in connection with a robbery in the Arndale shopping centre.
I don't know if I can. I'm not sure if I can find. Later on in the podcast, I might be able to retrieve a picture of it as evidence.
There we go. Well, there you go.
We'll move on.
That was show and tell. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so what we're moving on to then, we need to apologise for something from last week, don't we?
I think we need to apologise the week, yes. On the last podcast, I was talking about Henry, a regular listener, and I, perhaps incorrectly, made the suggestion that he picks up other people's dog turds whilst he's walking around on a Sunday. So, apologies, Henry. I've actually got no evidence to suggest that. Sorry if any offence was got. We've not heard it. He normally says thank you very much and enjoys listening to the show. He's not said anything this week, has he?
No, I'm sure he'll love featuring in Apology of the Week though, because it's a good thing to be part of, isn't it? Apology of the Week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reminds me of a sign that I saw when I was walking this week, because I've been going out for 20 minutes exercise as per Boris Johnson's directive, and someone had pinned up on their garden fence, and they got a bit of a patch of grass outside where the garden fence was.
Yeah.
It said, on the garden fence, if you have the decency to bag your dog's poo, please can you take it to the bin? Thank you very much.
It's social disturbing.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so are we going to talk a little bit about news, which obviously, as it is going to be for some time, is going to quite a lot be about the sort of coronavirus, isn't it? So we'll try and get that done and out of the way, and then talk a little bit about other stuff that's been going off that people may have heard or may not have heard of. So starting with the coronavirus then, kind of it sort of rolls on, doesn't it? Carrying on with that, should we talk about Boris Johnson first? So he is still in self-isolation. So he's done his 7 days, but he's still having symptoms, isn't he?
Yeah, it's almost as though we don't want him back as Prime Minister. Do
Yeah.
you think he's actually got it? Or do you think they just swapped his test with someone who had it and said, yeah, I'm sorry, Boris, you're going to have to sit on the sidelines for 14 days. You have to sit on the side. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't take an active part, so off you go.
Well, the worst thing is that he said he came out that he got coronavirus shortly after he'd written a letter to every UK household. That's quite a lot of letters to write. It must have took him forever. Maybe he's just run down. And also, if you do receive a letter, don't open it. If he's had coronavirus, it can live on surfaces for quite a while. Apparently, can't it? Allegedly.
Yeah, I hope he's not licked the envelopes. So, yeah. But obviously, we wish anyone, including Boris Johnson, a swift and speedy recovery if they have contracted the coronavirus. The same, and obviously we hope everyone doesn't suffer too much from it.
Is a symptom of coronavirus being a complete tosser? Or no, I'm only joking, and that's not how Boris Johnson is spending his time either. He's working very, very hard. So
yeah, that is. He's suggesting that's why the nation is running out of toilet roll.
But as well as that, that's a good point. And also with a lot of the again, it's articles I've seen rather than me knowing this myself. Honestly, but a lot of sort of well-known and established pornographic websites have been giving away sort of premium memberships, haven't they, while people are on lockdown? So that's not going to help with the toilet roll issue either, is it? That's just encouraging more panic buying.
Well, you'd have thought so, but do you want to give the name of some of these websites?
I cannot possibly do that on a sort of family podcast. But obviously, there are other people as well who have sort of come out into the news and said they've got coronavirus as well. Sometimes celebrities that you don't really hear much from anymore, kind of, I've got coronavirus. I'm expecting like someone like Timmy Mallet anytime soon. So me too. No, but Dynamo the Magician has got coronavirus. Did you know that?
I did. Yes, I'd heard it.
You'd heard it? Yep. So, I mean, Dynamo, obviously a magician. Got coronavirus, I suppose. I guess it was always on the cards.
Hey.
I thought that was quite good, but anyway. Yeah. But he spoke about having the symptoms and sort of how bad it were and things like that. Anything else you want to mention here?
Yeah. A lot of people. Well, Boris Johnson tweeted that he was doing a Zoom meeting with the cabinet because obviously he's social distancing. Obviously, there's been question marks around people doing Zooms because there's question marks around the encryption security. Boris Johnson, obviously mindful of the security of the nation, tweeted a picture which had got the meeting number on there, so anyone could try and get into it. You know, just via various combinations at the passcode and see if you get in. I wonder if anyone actually tried which with the passcode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and did they go in? But that means that sort of other people have been doing sort of similar to what we've been doing. We had. If anyone watched Have I Got News for You on Friday night, that was sort of recording a similar amount to how we're recording with people at home and speaking into their webcams, microphones, and all that sort of stuff. And a comedy club in Liverpool, they did sort of a webcast of a recent gig. And do you know what the slight problem was there?
There was an audience on it.
Well, there was an audience because it was sort of a record of something that happened a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, some people listening and watching thought it was actually a genuine live performance. And it kind of got into a bit of a problem when around 20 police officers turned up to close the venue down, only to find out there was actually no one there. So,
again, was that not just Sting and the police turning up to maybe do a gig, or so
could have been?
I'm still getting that confused, aren't I?
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that happened. Also, we've had the president of Belarus. Do you know what he's doing about coronavirus?
Yeah, I think I've seen this. He's pretty much doing sod all, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. They're still playing football in Belarus.
The only games you can have football bets on.
Yeah, probably the only country you can. If you're keen on your betting, Belarus is the place to go to. Yeah, they're the only place still playing sport. And he also played in an ice hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds very Vladimir Putin-esque. He's done that a few times when he played ice hockey. Although, actually, have you heard about Vladimir Putin in the news? He's delayed, for the good of the nation, he's delayed a vote that would have allowed him to continue as Prime Minister or President, possibly even for his lifetime, I think.
Right.
So what a good bloke. Anything else that's been keeping us busy?
Well, there's we're just continuing on with the sort of coronavirus stuff. I've seen that there's a bit of a worry that there's going to be a shortage of fruit and veg pickers from the farms, because obviously as more people get ill and self-isolate or social distance and so on, there's going to be less people to kind of pick the fruit and veg and stuff like that. So they've kind of put appeals out there asking for people to volunteer, people to work and to be pickers, because they need something like 29,000 to be able to keep the sort of supply going. But they're not getting that many people sort of volunteering, but they have had volunteers from like local circuses and things that have shut down. So, but surely you're just going to get a problem where you're going to get loads of clowns and people who usually juggle fruit and veg just getting it all over the place. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, they're probably not the people I would normally choose. I mean, surely it's going to be difficult because, as you said, they'd be great for socially distancing, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Because the feet are so big, they will probably measure 2 meters that you can't get close to them.
Exactly. So that's probably pretty handy, if anything.
Yeah. There's been other stuff in the news as well. Jack Grealish, we talk about him briefly.
Yeah.
Obviously, he recorded a video on Friday or Saturday. I think it's probably Friday, actually. Encourage everyone to stay home and save lives. And we personally can't reiterate that message enough. A lot of people over the years for this country have done a lot of good, sort of sacrificing themselves. All we have to do is stay at home to try and save the lives of people in this country. And everyone should do it. Jack Grealish recorded a video, put it up on Twitter saying, you should stay home and save lives. Do you know what he did on Saturday night?
I'm guessing he didn't stay home.
Yeah, he went out. Allegedly went to his friend's house. By the sounds of it, had a fair amount to drink, and then drove home in his Range Rover and crashed his car into various other people's cars. Jumped out of it, ran off, said he'd pay for the damage, and one of his friends had to come and sort of attempt to sort it out and get involved in the insurance details. And to be fair, I don't really have any problem with the fact that he's decided to go out. I mean, it's not ideal, it's not great, don't get me wrong, but it's just a general hypocrisy.
Yeah, I've been telling people not to do that.
Yeah, he's telling people to stay in. He's acting as a role model for young generations. He's doing a video saying stay in, then he goes out. I mean, it's a stupid thing to do.
I've actually, someone else I've actually, in my role working with the football mascots, Barney Owl and Aussie Owl at Sheffield Wednesday, I have actually seen Jack Grealish as well. So, along with, I think, John Terry at the same sort of time as well. We mentioned that in previous episodes. You mentioned Belarus and what they're doing to combat the coronavirus. Malaysia are also actually doing certain things as well. So the Malaysian government have got their own little sort of ways of sort of dealing with the coronavirus. So, and also other related issues to do with the coronavirus, like obviously people being in lockdown and so on. So do you know what the Malaysian government did?
I don't know. Did they start disinfecting the entire country?
Not quite. So they released a series of posters online telling women how to keep their men happy during the lockdown. Some of it included not nagging your husband and not being sarcastic.
Really?
Yeah, which is obviously got quite a lot of criticism from a lot of sort of women's rights groups. But yeah, there you go. So that's. I mean, I'm sure. Really, they could have come up with another set of posters, maybe sort of tips for men on how to kind of keep their wives happy during the lockdown as well, because that can equally be a challenge, can't it?
Well, yeah, it might be a good idea, as opposed to just thinking that the problem is that men are sort of short-fused and it's women that are causing the problems.
Yeah.
So, is it a reasonable assumption to say that the Prime Minister or President of Malaysia is a man?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I think the crazy thing is that it was It was by a group called Women Prevent COVID-19. They were the ones that did the posters. So it was actually a women's group, but I think it was obviously a women's group who were quite traditional and think that their role in the home is, you know, all that kind of thing. But and then obviously other women's groups have criticised it. So yeah, it was part of the a government sort of department or whatever.
I'm not wholly convinced actually by this argument anyway, because surely if their impression was that women's role should be just to stay at home and do bits of cooking and washing up and all that sort of stuff, I can't imagine they'd do sort of digital marketing.
Exactly.
You know, it seems slightly out of character.
Yeah. Maybe it's from home. Who knows?
Yes,
Everyone is working
maybe
at home nowadays, so yeah.
Obviously, people need to have things to do and need to keep themselves entertained at home. So one thing that has been quite popular, apparently,
is the Waste of Web Space podcast, of course.
The Waste of Web Space podcast. Obviously, there's nothing more popular than that, other than pretty much everything else.
But we are only one episode a week, so there's other times to fill, isn't there?
There is, exactly. So one of the other things that's become quite popular are playing board games and doing jigsaws.
Oh yeah, okay.
Becoming quite popular in the house. In fact, there's been so many people ordering jigsaws, it's been quite difficult. I've saw someone who runs a jigsaw company, and he said actually getting the deliveries out to all the customers has been very, very difficult for him. So he's come up with a new method of delivering jigsaws. He's going to start delivering them at the four corners of the country, work down the borders, and then working towards the centre.
That is a good idea. That is a good tactic. I mean, obviously, you know, Monopoly's sort of had a bit of a rise in popularity as well. But the one thing about Monopoly that I don't like is how it is just one company that make the board game. There you go. Yeah. So, have we done with all the sort of coronavirus stuff? Is there anything else we haven't mentioned as part of that? I think we've kind of covered everything for now, haven't we?
I want to mention sympathising with footballers.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Because there's been a bit of pressure on footballers, and I think it's just a bit of a distractionary measure to some degree. That I'm not particularly happy that the government has put out sort of a business relief scheme and job retentions, and there's football clubs that have got massive amounts of money. And the amount of money in football is ridiculous. Let's be honest, let's be clear about that. And the fact that some clubs are furloughing is that how it's pronounced? Let's be honest, no one else knew how to pronounce that word about 2 weeks ago. I think it's called furloughing. Furloughed members of staff, which means the government pays sort of 80% of their wages, and some of the clubs will top it up by 20% or whatever, and they're claiming they're doing a good thing. I don't particularly think that's sort of really sort of socially responsible of clubs that are sort of awash with cash that are owned by vastly, vastly rich people. However, at the same time, football players themselves get paid quite a lot of money, and as a result, pay tax on that money. And they're kind of been told that they should be paying additional contributions. I'm sure they actually want to, but it's maybe not quite that simple and straightforward to just take a 20% pay cut or whatever. So I was wondering if you knew how much tax a player such as Paul Pogba will pay per year, roughly.
Well, it's so. I mean, I need to know what the wages are first, but I imagine they're quite a lot. But if you are a high earner, like you know, after a certain amount, you sort of pay. Is it like 40% tax rather than 20-30%, whatever it might be? So they're going to pay at least 40%, possibly even more.
As someone who earns the additional rate, he will be paying 45% tax.
Right. Okay.
For the vast majority, after his first sort of 3 or 4. How much do you think he actually earns per week, or is estimated to earn?
Are we going to say 500,000, 200,000, maybe 500,000?
It's estimated that Pogba earns about 290,000 a week.
Yeah.
Which is a scandal in itself, to be fair, because he's sort of obviously done very well for Man United. No. That's a completely different issue. What someone wants to pay him is entirely up to them. So he earns about 290 grand a week. So how do you think that sort of equates in terms of tax per year?
Well, he's gonna out of per week. So per month, then he's obviously getting at least £1 million per month. More is getting per month if you sort of base it on a 4 weeks. So he's probably paying about at least 500 grand in tax a month.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that said, isn't it, that people who are kind of that maybe sort of jumping in to criticise things, like they're not probably thinking about it, are they, in terms of how much tax is coming in. So
yeah, I mean, looking at sort of Pogba, estimated rough figures, his total income tax and national insurance per year totals about £7 million, and then the employer's national insurance contributions on top of that, which is about 13 and a bit percent. Pretty much the entirety of his wages amounts to about £2 million. So in total, for employing Paul Pogba, Manchester United and himself contributes £9 million of tax into sort of the budget and into the treasury. So when people talk about footballers wasting taxpayers' money and all that sort of stuff, it might be worth considering that they actually pay quite a bit more tax than we do.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting point to make. And maybe the government should actually focus on ensuring we get good care, good supplies to the NHS, and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to criticising footballers when they pay quite a lot into the system already.
Good point. And maybe thinking about as well the kind of, like with it, when it comes to sort of things like ventilators, where they were hoping to be able to provide 30,000 by the weekend, and instead they got 30. Is that right?
Well, yeah, maybe it was written. Yes, I believe they got 30 instead of 30,000. So you maybe wonder whether they kind of put, let's order 30k, and it got a bit confused on that. They've just got 30.
They were always one for sort of criticising how sort of Labour and particularly Diane Abbott calculated things, weren't they? This sort of Tory party. But then, we only had just the other day they were saying about that they're not counting nurses and doctors' deaths, was it, towards the coronavirus death count? For some reason,
they were keeping account of doctors, but not nurses. But then that said, they haven't got a very good track record in terms of counting nurses with sort of how many more they will get and people not leaving and all that sort of stuff. So it's always been a bit woolly.
Yeah,
for
because
them.
they are the party that have sort of single-handedly helped to shrink the profession over the years, haven't they? But now, obviously, it's come back to bite them a little bit as they're trying to get more people back, and probably people who left the profession in the first place because of the sort of cuts and the sort of working conditions and everything like that. So hopefully one thing to come out of all this is maybe the importance of what we do have in the NHS.
Yeah, well, so it's not just coming back to bite them, it's coming back to sort of bite the entire country and people who are sort of in care at the NHS. But anyway, that's enough talk about politics. Should we move on and talk about something else?
Yeah, so should we talk about... Do you want to talk about the new Labour leader? Yeah, Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer as well.
Sir Keir Starmer. He doesn't like being called Sir, by the way.
No.
But I can't help think that sort of out of the really great leaders that we've got, and sort of sometimes prime ministers get made a Sir anyway, don't they? So that can't really happen to him, can it?
No.
So what's the incentive for him to do well?
Maybe just doing better than what we've had for the last, whatever it's been. Is it 9 years now? Longer? 10 years maybe? But no, I mean, what do you think? I mean, if I'm completely honest, I didn't know a lot about him until recently, and I read a bit more about him, and I think it could potentially be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former barrister, so he got elected to the bar.
But
Thank you very much.
Oh, did you want to?
Sorry, again, for anyone listening to the podcast, I held up that massive glass of brandy when I talked about being elected to the bar. He's former director of public prosecutions, which I think is what ordered him his knighthood. Obviously,
he stood up against
Labour
McDonald's, didn't he, and things like that as well.
Did he? I wasn't too sure on that front.
Yeah, so he stood up against McDonald's and something to do with like other smaller companies and stuff like that. But he took the fight to McDonald's basically.
Yeah,
I think he got a double cheeseburger and large fries while he were there, but he took the fight to McDonald's. Yeah, he refused to go. He just went through the drive-through.
Taking the morally high ground. Obviously, a lot of Labour supporters were keen to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn, so they've decided to elect Keir Starmer instead, who is nothing like Jeremy Corbyn because he's an MP for North London and he's a massive Arsenal fan. Oh no, sorry. But you feel for Corbyn leaving though. I mean, particularly at this point in time, surely this at the moment is kind of everything he's ever wanted.
Yeah.
The government are spending money right, left, and centre. Yeah, we're paying people to sit at home.
Yeah,
perfect Corbyn stuff. He's got what he wanted. But the slight downside is sort of so many people in the country dying, but other than that.
But Starmer has said he wants to sort of continue slightly with the sort of radical approach that sort of Jeremy Corbyn had at the same time, hasn't he? So although he did stand up in the past against Corbyn, he's kind of although he's certainly not going to be the same as what Corbyn was. He's certainly said that he's going to kind of move forward with a lot of the stuff that he was already doing or he was already pressing for, and some of the values which is fair because Jeremy Corbyn's values you couldn't really argue with, could you?
Well, no, certainly a matter of principles. Quite obviously, same as everyone else. Everyone's got their opinions on things, and it was very, very strong around what he believed in. But there we go. I say things will move on from him, and we'll see what happens with Keir Starmer. So, should we move on to the next part of the podcast?
Let's do that. First of all, should we take an ad break, because obviously we are now getting sponsored, aren't we? We're trying to, now we've got a bit more time to sort of chase sponsors and stuff. There's also a lot of different things that are coming up, aren't they? Because of the coronavirus, there's a lot of new companies sort of popping up that really want to reach out to our audience and get them to purchase certain things. So we're here to listen to those advertisers and help them out, aren't we?
Go on then, play your ad.
Are people around you not complying with social distancing? Are they getting too close to you with their coughs, sneezes and contagious diseases? Then give Prod and Poke a call. We supply top-of-the-range 2-metre poking sticks in a variety of colours. Lightweight, fashionable, with an antibacterial gun spray fitted as standard. And if you order before the end of the UK lockdown, we'll upgrade you to a fitted electric taser Model 2. Not technically legal, but the police are too busy telling people to stay indoors to care. www.prodandpokesticks.co.uk. Remember, you can like the Waste of Web Space podcast on Facebook. In fact, you don't even have to like us. You can hurl loads of abuse at us on there as well. Okay, so on with the rest of the podcast then. Fisher, you've got a bit of a quiz lined up for us, haven't you?
I have. First though, have you actually been on the prodandpoke.co.uk website? And if so, what did it actually contain?
Well, I'd just be very careful about going to any website called prodandpoke.co.uk.
But nonetheless, you've given the website out on our podcast and said it's something we're responsible for. So anyway, I've done, obviously, one thing that a lot of people are proud of in this country at the moment is the manner in which we're kind of pulling together. Although a lot of people are pulling together, we're showing a bit of a community spirit, which is really good, particularly maybe after it being sort of possibly lacking a bit in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. At 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening, a lot of people go and stand outside and start clapping for our heroes in the care sector and in the NHS and the key workers out there. Not sure if you did it this week, Jimbo.
Well, look, I went out, okay, and so you're not going to include me in this bad boy list, are you? If I went out and then sort of submerged back into my place, because I went out where I live. I'm surrounded by mostly sort of commercial places that are obviously a lot of them now closed. There's a couple of takeaways. There's a Domino's pizza place right across the road from us, with an absolute massive fleet of drivers now. They've actually obviously increased staff to get more pizzas out to people and so on. But yeah, they were there, and so I kind of came out, but a lot of I could hear the clapping in the distance, but there was no one around me actually clapping themselves. So I kind of just sort of faded back in. But I did go out and just put my hands together slightly. The Domino's pizza people thought I were applauding them, and they deserve the applause as well, don't they? Because they are still getting us all fed and making sure we can have takeaways and treats and stuff like that. So yeah, but I did attempt it. Yeah.
Were you telling me the other day that you had a Domino's delivered? And obviously they can't hand it over physically to you. So they left it on top of the bin.
They did, yeah. Yeah, they like to keep their distance and leave. Yeah, I mean, the bin's not the, especially when we're trying to think of hygiene at the minute, it's not the best place to leave pizza, is it? But it was fine. It was very quick and very, it was a smooth transaction.
Well, anyway, so it's part of the fact that a lot of people are pulling together and really trying to ensure that people stay home and save lives. There are some people who are going a bit off message and aren't quite doing that. Who I'm sort of saying are the bad boys of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So I've got a quiz that's kind of half of it's about the bad boys of COVID-19, and the other half basically is just about Mike Ashley.
Okay.
So let's let's see where we get to. I think I've got 12 questions. Let's see how we do. So Jack Grealish, as we mentioned earlier, crashed his car at the weekend. But what in the summer of 2015 was he pictured doing in Tenerife? Was it that he was urinating against someone's house while sticking his middle finger up to the camera? Or was he passed out in the street, surrounded by packs of cigarettes?
You say this is Mark Ashley again?
No, so it's Jack Grealish.
Jack Grealish. Sorry, I was thinking. Anyway, so sorry. Jack Grealish, he was pictured either urinating in the streets,
urinating against someone's house while sticking his middle finger up at the camera,
okay,
or passed out in the street, surrounded by packs of cigarettes.
Right. And when was this again?
2015.
Okay, so would that have been just as Villa were being relegated, or around that same sort of time, possibly?
I don't know. It's happened that often that it's hard to tell.
Well,
joke for the Villa fans in there.
Well, they sort of came down after quite a long time in the Premiership, didn't they? And I think that was when Jack Grealish was kind of getting quite well known as to what he is now, possibly around that same sort of time. So, it obviously could have easily been any of them, but I'm going to go with the one that he was having a wee outside someone's house and pointing his finger up at the camera.
You're wrong.
Okay.
He was filmed passed out or appearing to be passed out in the street with packs of cigarettes around him. I think he's probably on about 23, 24 now. So
I'm picturing like packs of cigarettes stood around, like shaking their head, looking at him, rather than him just like loads of cigarettes just laid all around him. I've got a different image going on in my head.
Okay. So I think he was probably only about 18 and 19 at the time, but nonetheless sort of a very promising footballer. What was interesting is when I Googled sort of Jack Grealish controversies, it came up with that. It came up with obviously the incident at the weekend. There's a couple of other things as well. And it came up with an incident in a game, I think last year, the Birmingham derby, Birmingham against Aston Villa, where a fan ran onto the pitch and punched him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't particularly think that was a controversy that was particularly to blame for.
Yeah, true.
Walking around presenting the back of his head to people, which is again, he just happened to be the victim on that point.
I think we might have talked about that in our podcast at the time as well. Yeah, I think we did talk about that at the time in our podcast as well.
I think so. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. Billy Joe Saunders, who I think we discussed in the last podcast, recorded a video where he punched a punch bag and was telling people that this is how you punch your wife. There are quite a few regarding him, but at the same time, I don't want to know him too much because obviously he's he's a professional boxer, isn't he? So yeah, I don't want to have too many harsh words for him. In September 2018, Billy Joe Saunders, in an incident described as banter, I hate that word at times when it's used inappropriately.
I don't like banter.
Pass anything off as being a bit of banter, can't you?
Yeah. I just don't like the word in general.
Yeah. I don't mind occasionally if it is actually banter, but yeah. Oh, I kicked my granddad in the face. Great banter. So anyway, in 2018, Billy Joe Saunders, in an incident described as banter, was videoed offering a suspected drug addict £150 of drugs. What did he say he wanted in return? Was it for the drug addict to perform a sex act on his friend and hit an innocent bystander? Or is it for the drug addict to steal a crate of lager from the local shop, and if questioned, they had to say they were stealing it on behalf of the WBA middleweight champion of the world?
So he gave somebody £150, did you say?
Whoa.
No, start again.
He said in the video he would offer them £150 worth of drugs. I'm not saying he gave it to him.
So, but you're saying
he takes drugs.
But you're saying that one of the reasons was to go into an off license and steal some beer for him.
He said to a suspected drug addict, "I will give you £150 worth of drugs as long as you do one of the following things."
Oh right, okay.
Well, he didn't say that obviously. He said as long as you do this, and it might have been that he asked the drug addict to perform a sex act on Billy Joe Saunders' friend and also hit an innocent bystander, or it was for the drug addict to run into a shop, steal a crate of lager, and if they were asked why they were doing it, he had to say that they were stealing it on behalf of the WBA middleweight champion of the world.
So I don't know what the purposes of giving somebody all that much money worth of drugs to go and steal them some lager. And obviously, if they've got that much money for the drugs, they could have just gone and bought the lager themselves. And I don't think he particularly needs to steal anything. But maybe it was just for the old sake of him saying it's for the heavyweight champion of the world, and it was just for the sake of it.
Jimbo.
Yeah.
It was for banter.
Oh, it was for, fair enough. If it was for banter, yeah. I still think I'm going to go with the first one though, the sex act one. Yeah.
Sex act and hit an innocent bystander.
Yeah.
You'd be correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I just say that when you played on the soundboard, that tick bing noise, that was ridiculously loud in my earphones. So if you can try and get all the rest of the questions wrong, which to be fair isn't normally a problem for you, then that would be much appreciated.
You just get ready.
Yeah, so you got 1 out of 2 so far. So what appeared to confuse Billy Joe Saunders in Meadow Hall, as per a tweet in November 2017? Was it a gender-neutral shop assistant? Or was it a seemingly able-bodied person using a disabled toilet? It later transpired that the disabled person had recently undergone a triple heart bypass and was unable to walk upstairs or long distances.
Right, okay. So Meadow Hall, obviously our local big shopping centre around our area in Sheffield. Of course, we are Chapeltown's #1 podcast, and we think at the minute still only podcast. We think. Is that right?
Yeah, I think even if there were a charge podcast, we'd still claim to be the best anyway.
Yeah, so let's go with the second one, that it was somebody using a disabled toilet, and he was questioning why, where actually it was somebody who needed to use it.
And you would be wrong.
Okay. The boos are quite long this time, aren't they?
I was going to say, how long did that booing last for? It's going to be our first 2-hour podcast.
It's because I recalibrated the soundboard not long ago, so yeah, I need to turn the fade out time to a bit shorter, I think. There we go.
Okay. So that's all we've got about Billy Joe Saunders. I'm sure he's a nice bloke in real life. So what did Weatherspoons do? Obviously, Tim Martin said to people that it's quite unlikely you're going to get coronavirus in one of his pubs, so he might as well stay open. What did Weatherspoons do to the surprise of marketing experts in April 2018? Is it they gave firm instructions to members of staff that they should no longer apologise to customers. If a customer had a problem, but as members of staff were made clear that they should tell them to go elsewhere? Or is it that they closed all their social media accounts on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram?
I think I know this one. First of all, I will say that as much as I'm not a fan whatsoever of the Weatherspoons owner, and there's certainly coronavirus has potentially tipped me over the edge in terms of me actually wanting to give money to Weatherspoons. The actual service and the sort of price of things in there is brilliant, and the staff who work in there are brilliant. There's one round here. I've got no issues with the people who run the actual pubs themselves, but the owner wise, he's let's face it, he's a knobhead, isn't he? I was looking for a bleep buzz. I need to get a bleep buzz out. I'm sorry, but he really is. So it has made me reevaluate whether I should actually be going in there anymore. I don't think the don't apologise thing is true. And I think even if he'd have said that, I think the staff who work in those kind of places, and certainly the staff I've come across, have always been absolutely really fine, really friendly, really happy to help you whenever. But I do remember hearing a story about the social media. They just decided to come off it so they didn't have to deal with people on it anymore, basically, I think it was. So I think that's the one that's the correct answer.
And you'll be correct. I'm going to try and keep count this week, so I think you got 2 out of 4.
Okay.
So well done. Next up, you might be ready with the soundboard. Donald Trump.
There you
go. There are more cases in America than there are any other country in the world now of coronavirus. USA, USA, USA. Sorry. Which is, and generally there's been a bit of a refusal to acknowledge that there's actually a problem from Donald Trump, would be my sort of general general comment on it. So, when he was asked by a journalist on the 20th March this year,
when he would
say, when the President of America was asked, what he would say to the Americans who were scared, given that there had been 200 deaths and over 14,000 cases of coronavirus, how did he respond? Did he say, "Our thoughts and prayers are with all the American citizens. Unfortunately, that's the most we can do"? Or did he say to the reporter, "You're a terrible reporter"?
Right. I believe that both are things that viably could have come out of Donald Trump's mouth. Any of those could have been said, but I'm going to go with the fact that I think it was the other one. And he's known for having sort of fights with reporters, isn't he, and having a bit of a go at him and so on. He doesn't take any crap from him. But so let's go with the reporters, I think.
You'd be right. He told the reporter that it was a terrible reporter because he was spreading negativity, or as it's sometimes called, the truth. And he said, "You and CNN and Comcast, you know what? I don't call them Comcast. I call them Concast."
Can I just stop? Can I stop you there? You've done.
All right, Jeremy Corbyn.
You've done an excellent Donald Trump impression in the past, and I'd like you to attempt to do it again now, if that's okay. Because I do like your Donald Trump impression. I think it's pretty good.
You're a terrible reporter. You and CNN and Comcast. You know, I don't call them Comcast. I call you Concast. This disease, which came over from China. That's sort of the best I can do.
No, I like that. Well done.
He did an interview the other day where he was talking about obviously the spread of the coronavirus, and he said something along the lines of, obviously the scientists they've been making the models, and I wasn't involved in the model. I've not been involved in any models. Well, not mathematical models anyway. Like, oh, right.
I'm putting your accent, not Donald Trump, by the way.
Oh. Fantastic. At the time where America has got more cases of a deadly pandemic than anyone else, the president decides to try and make a joke about him boning some models. You know, well done. It's just what we want, isn't it? So anyway, moving on from Donald Trump, Liverpool FC, who have I think today or yesterday announced that they're going to furlough members of staff. However, I think they said they're going to top up the 20%. As I said earlier on, I don't particularly agree with the fact that football clubs such as Liverpool that had a turnover in the last 2 years of about £1 billion across the 2 years, and pay vast amounts of millions of pounds to sign players should really be doing that. But there we go. Liverpool FC are alleged to have paid £1 million to Manchester City in 2013 following a dispute between the clubs. What was the issue? Is it alleged that Liverpool hacked into Manchester City's scouting database of players having obtained the login details of a Manchester City scout? Or is it alleged that a Liverpool member of staff had approached a member of staff from Manchester City asking for team information prior to an important Premier League game? I would say that this is only allegedly, and Liverpool haven't publicly commented on the story.
But they have paid for something, is that right? Or was it a story? There's no... Is there any...
They have allegedly paid for something according to report in the Times, but Liverpool haven't commented on it.
Okay. Let's go with... I think it was the one to do with the hacked... Was it sort of details of a scout or something like that?
Hacked into their scouting database.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
You'd be correct. So I think you got 4 out of 6, which is good so far. So keep on the good work, Jimbo. So Lord Sugar, who today said that now it's very difficult to say, but Piers Morgan is actually, I think, at the moment doing quite a good job. I mean, I'll go and get a bar of soap to wash my mouth out, but he's encouraging people to stay home, save lives, follow the advice of the government, and he's really sort of saying that this coronavirus, COVID-19, is a very serious thing, and we should be doing what we're told. Mm-hmm. And we should do everything to ensure that we aren't increasing the spread of transmission, and also we do everything we can to protect our NHS.
I think there's possibly a little bit of a. I'll let you explain what's going off, but there's a little bit of a tiny little bit of me that kind of understands what Lord Sugar's saying, but I think there's other things aside from that, which is why people should be following the guidelines and so on. Yeah, you carry on, and I'll sort of cut in when.
So, as we record on Sunday, it has been quite a nice day. It's not been too bad here. I think in London it was estimated that a lot of people were going to go out into parks and sunbathe. Lord Sugar said, I don't understand what Piers Morgan's talking about, saying that everyone should stay indoors, and follow government's advice. As long as you're going out in Essex where there's some really nice big fields and you're staying 10 feet apart, then you're absolutely fine. What's the problem? Which is not the government's advice. Government's advice is that you only leave the house for 20 minutes of exercise or for urgent food supplies. And that's the advice that I'm following, and hopefully you're following as well, because that's what I'm being told to do by government, who, to be fair, don't actually tell us to do all that many things.
I suppose what I was sort of quite to say. I suppose it might be the way that Lord Sugar said it, but if you are one of those people that does live that backs onto huge fields and there's lots of space, if you're going to lay down somewhere just out of the way of everybody else, so there is. I understand what you're saying. There's no harm in that, but by being a public figure to sort of speak out against the guidelines, you're going to get lots of mixed messages, aren't you? Then people are going to follow the wrong guidelines and so on. So I can see both sides of the argument, but maybe Lord Sugar is just best not sort of going on about, people can use the common sense without him saying it for himself, is what I'm saying. Possibly.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable point to make. So Lord Sugar, though, it was involved in another Twitter controversy, and it's not the one involving tweeting a picture of the Senegalese football team saying he'd seen him on a beach in Marbella selling sort of fake sunglasses and whatever. It's not that one. Is it not
the one about him not being able to get a watch that he really wants because they won't? His Rolex person won't help him out or something like that, or won't talk to his Rolex dealer? Not that one either.
That one either. So he tweeted a picture that caused us to, on the 31st of July 2018. What was it of? Was it of a shop assistant in Croatia with, what it's fair to say, was an impressive cleavage? He made a joke insinuating he'd remained in the shop in order to basically stare at her norks. I wasn't quite sure whether norks was an appropriate term to use, but I think that's sort of is that a reasonable phrase to use for breasts?
Well, if that's what he used.
He didn't use the word norks, no.
Oh, you put that in there. Well,
I put that. It basically insinuated, and that's why I stayed in the store.
There we go.
I did double check this with my wife, and she said that seemed like a sensible word to use.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's do a Twitter poll, shall we? Is norks appropriate? We'll do that.
Yeah. So was it that, or was it that he tweeted a picture of a Middle East royal family member eating at a posh restaurant? He captioned it by saying that if he can't pay for the bill, then the Middle Eastern royal family member can take the tea towel off his head and help with washing the pots.
Oh, God. It's just, why would he say either of them?
Now, I would say that, obviously, both of those don't particularly implicate me making one up in a particularly good light.
No.
But nonetheless, I do think it is the kind of thing that Lord Sugar might potentially say. And bear in mind, he has got a bit of previous on that front as well.
He clearly sometimes just doesn't know when to stop talking, does he? Do you know what I mean? Or to keep something to himself. Again, like the sort of thing about the sort of government guidelines recently. Like, he doesn't, I can see where he's coming from, but let people use their own common sense without you saying it and then confusing the message even more is I think the message there. I'm going to go with the first one. I think that as you put it, he stayed in there. He basically tweeted saying he was going to be staying in there just to carry on looking at this person's norks. Okay.
Well, I think if you check on your mobile phone, I've just sent you a picture of what he tweeted.
Okay. Let me have a look for the answer then, and then I'll. So you just sent me the picture alone. So it was that was I was right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that picture.
Yeah, you're welcome. So just to be clear, I haven't sent Jimbo a picture of a Middle Eastern member of the royal family. I have, however, might have sent him a picture of a lady with a fairly large pair of shoulder boulders.
Are we allowed to show that to the camera? Is that clear? Can you see that?
You want? But yes, he said he'd spent extra time in the store because of effectively looking at that lady's cleavage. There we go. What a lovely man. So I think you got 5 out of 7 so far. So well done, Jimbo.
How many have we got?
Keep going. I think that was 5. I think that's 5 out of 7.
No, how many more?
5 more.
Okay.
So we're moving on to the Mike Ashley section.
Oh, here we go.
In 2013 and 2014 combined, how many ambulances were sent to the same postcode as Sports Direct's distribution centre in Shirebrook? Was it 76 or 33?
Shirebrook's not far away at all, is it?
No, it's not far away.
No,
I think it's an old...
Probably about 40 minutes away, I think.
I don't know. I've never ran there. I think it's a former mining village. I think sort of when the mines closed, sort of flattened, and big distribution centre built there. Sort of eventually, Sports Direct took over and uses it as its main hub.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a slight controversy that it was sort of said that jobs were going to be for local people, and I think that generally speaking, the majority of people who work there probably weren't born and bred in Shirebrook.
Right. Okay.
Not that there's anything wrong with employing people who aren't born and bred in Shirebrook, I hasten to add.
Okay, so go on then. So what?
So in that 2-year period between
was it 76?
2013 and 2014, was it 76 or 33 ambulances that were called?
I'm going to go with 76.
You would be correct.
So 76 ambulances.
76 ambulances called and dispatched. I think there were some extra ones that were called but later cancelled.
So obviously the health and safety setup there isn't great. The sound of it.
I haven't said that. All I'm saying is that 76 ambulances were called in that 2-year period and dispatched to the same postcode as the warehouse. I'm not even saying that they actually went to the warehouse. I'm just saying the same postcode. Now, it could be that all these incidents happened just outside the factory. It could be the fact. It could be the fact that alarmingly large amount is related to health and safety issues and working conditions there. But we're not saying that, are we?
Maybe it's because they had a lot of droppages of those big mugs that we always talk about that shatter into a million pieces. And yeah, it
could be. Who knows? So. Moving on to November 2016, a group of MPs visited Sports Direct Distribution Centre where it was alleged there's poor working conditions. Why were they shocked at lunchtime? Was it that the food was very plain, with only ham sandwiches served, meaning that the 2 vegetarian MPs were left with nothing? Or was it when the sandwiches delivered, it transpired that there was a hidden microphone under the plate?
I was wondering whether you was going to say because were they shocked because the Beast of Bolsover was there? What do we call him? Dennis Skinner, because he's from a similar sort of area, isn't it? It's very, very close to Bolsover. Is Shirebrook in the same sort of area? I'm going to go with the first one, I think.
Very plain food with nothing for vegetarians?
Yeah.
You would be wrong. Just going back to Lord Sugar, I mean, do you think he actually asked this shop assistant? I mean, you've seen the picture.
Yeah.
Do you think he actually asked the shop assistant whether she found it acceptable for him to tweet a picture of her cleavage towards his sort of like 5 million or so followers?
Yeah, it's worth wondering, isn't it? But I mean, she might be pleased for the publicity, or she might not be.
Or she might just be going about a business and be perved on by an old man who thinks it's acceptable to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, each to their own.
Thanks, that'll fill a bit of time later on. I'm joking.
So, next up with Mike Ashley. I think you got 6 out of 9, by the way. So next up with Mike Ashley. It was alleged in court, again, that it was alleged in court in January 2019 that Mike Ashley was at a meeting with potential investors of Newcastle United in September 2008 in the United Arab Emirates. It was reported that he allegedly made insulting comments, particularly focusing on 3 things. What were they? Was it the Sultan of Brunei, the Middle East peace process, and Bobby Robson? Or was it Islam, the Dubai royal family, and Kevin Keegan?
That's really random. So
they were the 3 that were predominantly in the news articles highlighted as what he'd slagged off, allegedly.
Okay, I'm going to go with the second lot, I think.
So Islam, Dubai royal family, and Kevin Keegan. You would be correct. 7 out of 10, 2 left. Again, it was alleged in court in July 2017 that Mike Ashley got involved in a drinking game.
No wonder Mike Ashley has got no time to properly manage the affairs of Newcastle United if he's always in court.
Exactly, well, yeah.
Or look after his staff.
Hey, I'm not saying he doesn't look after them properly. I'm sure he complies with all the correct regulations. But it was alleged in court, again. I mean, I'll be honest, to the best of my knowledge, nothing's ever been alleged about me in court, and I think the same can be said for yourself.
What about you? Doing something in that shopping centre? Oh, that wasn't you, was it? We got over. Yeah, sorry, we've worked that out. Yeah.
Claim had no foundation. I had an alibi. I claimed I was in the garden centre at the time. So it was alleged in court in July 2017. Mike Ashley was involved in a drinking game with a Polish analyst during a business meeting at a pub in Alfreton.
He wasn't using those big. He wasn't using those big mugs, was he?
No. I suspect you probably could get a full pint in there. But it was alleged it was in a business meeting in a pub in Alfreton with a Polish analyst, and they got involved in a drinking game. After Mike Ashley won, what allegedly happened? Did he take his shirt off and sing "We Are the Champions" at the top of his voice while stood on a table? Or did he vomit into a fireplace?
Was he wearing a Newcastle United shirt? He's often pictured in one, isn't he?
I think he sometimes takes it off at the game, doesn't he? Because he was involved in an incident where he downed a pint at a game, isn't he? And then got told off because you're not meant to drink in the stands.
Right, of course, yeah. I'm going to go with that he took his shirt off and swung it round and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
No, you'd be wrong. It was sick in a fireplace, unfortunately. So, final question. I think you've got 7 out of 11 so far, so it's a good effort. In February 2018, the Independent Press Standards Organisation ruled what following a complaint? Was it that Mike Ashley could legitimately be compared to North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un? An article in the Times had said he had many characteristics similar with Kim Jong-un, and the Independent Press Standards Organisation agreed. Or is it that he could legitimately be described as being like a callous Victorian mill owner with all the dignity and morals of a convicted benefit cheat, after an article in the Times said he had those characteristics, and the Independent Press Standards Organisation agreed?
I think the first one's quite extreme. To compare him to Kim Jong-un. I'm sure there are some similarities. Did you hear that allegedly in is it North Korea? Yeah, North Korea. Weren't they sort of, this is alleged. I don't know how true this is, but you couldn't put it past them, I suppose. But if you coughed in North Korea at the moment, you get shot quite instantly.
Well, interestingly, it is allegedly one of only 12 countries that doesn't have any case of the coronavirus at all.
Well,
which may be because of their extreme handling of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Bang, there you go.
Well, it's worked. Can't but anyway, yeah, not the best approach. I'm glad our country's not taking that approach. But anyway, I'm going to go with the second one. I think it's more likely it was compared to an old Victorian mill owner. Is that right?
Yeah, an old Victorian mill owner with all the dignity of a benefit sheet. You'll be incorrect.
Really?
Yep. No, it was allegedly it was compared to North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. I think Mike Ashley wasn't too happy with it, so took it to the Independent Press Standards Organisation, who said, "Oh, you've got sort of a fair few characteristics that are quite similar, so the comments can stand." I think there was one part of the article
both
in there
Newcastle United fans.
Well, yes, I don't think they're particularly happy with him. So yeah,
it does look like some of Kim Jong-un's trousers are from Sports Direct. To be fair, they're kind of like baggy joggers.
Yeah, that's just what it likes to wear.
And if Sports Direct did haircuts, that's what you're getting. Let's face it, you're getting the Kim Jong-un, aren't you?
Yeah, very much a one-size-fits-all. Bang, there we go. Sorry, when I say bang, no one's coughed.
Well, I enjoyed that, Fisher. Is that all of... How did I do? I think I got about 7 out of... Or did I get 8 with more than that?
Like 7 out of 12, so well done.
Yeah, well, no worries. That was quite good, wasn't it? Are you feeling ill? Under the weather? Feverish? Or do you have a spot in an awkward place? Are you struggling to get an appointment at your local doctor's surgery? Or are you sick of waiting in a call queue for the NHS helplines? Don't worry, add DM Cheryl. Cheryl, 42 from Rotherham, is here to take your problem and make it her own 24 hours a day, apart from at night when she's in the bath, sleeping, or sleeping in the bath. Cheryl is no medical expert, but who needs to be? She's heard it all before. Tell Cheryl your problems and she'll Google it for you using her 7-year-old son's iPad. What's more, if Cheryl can't find the answer, she'll ask all of her Facebook friends. Other than posting your first, second name and which housing estate you live on, your inquiry will be completely anonymous. In a crisis, DM Cheryl. Follow the Waste of Web Space podcast on Twitter and we'll follow you back. Literally right to your front door. Thank you very much for listening to us today in another long episode, hasn't it, Fisher?
I think so, yeah. And it's have you just used all the indents that we've made already on this podcast? We've now got none left in stock.
Well, you know, we've got time on our hands, haven't we, to make more for next time? So
yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true that we will follow people to their door. I mean, actually, do you know which podcast system we follow around?
Yeah.
Henry. That's how I know that he's been going around picking dog turds up from other people.
Well, thank you very much for listening. Of course, you can get in touch with us. wasteofwebspace.co.uk is our web address. Twitter, @wasteofwebspace, and Facebook. Plenty of ways for us to get in touch. We're also trying to put extra content out there as well, aren't we? Doing a few sorts of cover songs and silly adverts with videos and things like that we're putting out on our Facebook and Twitter pages. So you get a little bit more from us, as well as our super long podcasts, which we will try and cut down very slightly so that you're not listening to us for too long. But hey, what else have you got to do? So I thought this time, Fisher, I'd play us out with a song. So the last episode we had was Love Will Tear Us 2 Meters Apart, wasn't it? Episode 56. So I've actually done a cover version of that, and I thought I'd play us out with that particular song. Are you ready?
Okay, thank you very much. See you next time.
When the lockdown starts and everything's closed and you're queuing outside to get in Waitrose, you better stay out my way and cross over the road. Oh, love will tear us 2 meters apart. Love will tear us 2 meters apart. Why is there no toilet rolls or antiseptic wipes? There's markers on the floor 2 meters wide. I can't believe this is real. Stuck in the house with our wives, but love will tear us 2 meters apart. But love will tear us 2 meters apart.